Hello, welcome. It's really good that you've made your way, if only virtually, to Cuddesdon. This is a lockdown open day, which has been quite a challenging thing to work out and probably quite a challenging thing to put together. But thank you for taking part in it and thank you for being involved in it. It's really good to welcome you to Cuddesdon. We're going to try and show you something of our life, but it's going to be in lockdown conditions. And so you won't see a great many people other than at a safe social distance, and you'll probably get less information than if we'd had an ordinary real-time open day. I think we're finding, and I expect you are too, that receiving information through the screen is quite intense, and so less is more. Welcome. Let me introduce to you first one other person at a safe social distance. That is Rebecca Dean, who is our tutor for admissions as well as one of the New Testament tutors. There's Rebecca standing at a safe distance. There will be comparatively few other people to meet, but Rebecca will say something towards the end of this video about next steps and processes and so on. It's really good that the sun's shining. The sun always shines for open days. It's one of our rules here at Cuddesdon. It's a bit of a challenge for Steve, who's making the video, but I'm glad that you'll see us at our best, because the space and the location is one of the distinctives of this place. We are a place of where we are very privileged and very blessed to have a lot of space to create community, and the creation of community is central to what we're doing when we're thinking about our formation as ministers of the gospel and ministers of the kingdom. We try to represent and to include and to embrace people from across the whole breadth of Anglican Christianity. So we don't define ourselves by a certain churchmanship or a certain theological tradition or a certain liturgical preference or anything like that. We're about breadth and diversity because we believe that's what God's given to the church, and we believe that's what God calls into the church. So I hope that whoever you are and however you define yourself in terms of your high churchness or low churchness or liberalness or conservativeness, that you'll realise that this is a place where that will be honoured. Where that will be received as a blessing and a gift, and that you will also be able to receive yourself, were you to come here, that kind of the gift and the blessing that difference as represented by your fellow students and other members of the faculty and other members of the community will represent. So we're going to walk around a bit over the next few minutes and show you what we can. Most of it will be, as I say, in lockdown conditions, so we're not going to enter many buildings, but it will be essential for us to enter the main college building behind me, which we'll do a little bit later on in this video. Come with us. Later on in the day, if you're engaging with this on the open day, there will be 2 live Zoom sessions when you can engage with students and with staff, and I hope ask a few questions. And I hope that will give you a reasonably good, in the conditions, experience of who we are. I brought you to the heart of the village, and that's really to indicate something of how we belong in this community. Behind me is the Parish Church. We worship in it every weekday evening of the week in term time. My predecessors, many of them, were vicars of the Parish Church, and our connection with the village is a really strong one and really important to our history and to our formation. It also prompts us to think about how important it is that ministers are rooted in real communities. So although people go out from Cuddesdon to minister in all sorts of different kinds of settings, both at the end of their time and in the placements that we arrange for them, settings which are urban, settings which are suburban, settings which are near, settings which are in Oxford, settings which are further away. This is about the community aspect, the community rootedness of all ministry in a great deal more variety than I'm able to show you in a little scene like this. One of the great things about us at Cuddesdon is that we're able to accommodate in ordinary circumstances pretty much everybody who comes here in our own accommodation, so we don't have to worry about private landlords very often. And the main part of our accommodation is the Runcie building behind me. As you've seen, quite a few real life students and their families proving that they are locked down and proving what an excitement making this film is in those circumstances. But it's really great that we can accommodate everybody and make a real community here. Most live either in the flats behind me or in some of the cottages that you will see elsewhere in this video, either on campus or very, very close in the village. So that sense of being a real community for families, for partners, for spouses, quite as much as for ordinands, is a really important part of our ethos. In a moment, I'm also going to show you some of the accommodation and ethos that we have for solo and single students, because they are an equally important part of our community. And I think that one of the things that I'd say as a bit of a boast is that I think that we manage the issues of being a community of single people, married people, partnered people, solo people, people with children, people without children, really very well, and it makes for a richness of shared experience. I hope that you'll get the same from the students, and maybe in the Zoom session you'll have an opportunity for interrogating that a little bit. The Harriet Monsol building behind me, one of our newer buildings, houses one of our teaching spaces on the ground floor, which you can see through the big windows. Above it, there's some student accommodation. And above that live our Cuddesdon sisters, who are a very important part of our life, enriching it with their prayer, with their presence, being a little community within a community. And by chance, as we were making this video, we came across Sister Mary, one of the sisters, taking her morning constitutional. So she's joined the waving as part of the signs of our life here. At Cuddesdon, we make a big thing about how family friendly we are, and we are, but we also seek to make a good experience and good opportunities for people who come here as single students. And this is a small suite of rooms, including self-catering accommodation, which we reserve for the use of people who are here as single students during their time here. So this is the only place where children don't naturally come. It means that single people, solo people, people on their own, are able to have some space for themselves, some space that they can look after themselves over and above their study bedrooms, and can look after themselves particularly also in vacation times. So I hope that this shows something of how it would be to be here single, solo, as much as how to be here with a family. Eating together is really an important part of our ethos. We provide 3 meals a day through term time, and we are very welcoming and accommodating of families and partners as well as students. And as we eat together, so we form community in just the same way as we do when we're praying. And this place is therefore another of those beating hearts of the community that we create here. This is part of our large, extensive and quite rambly library, which is just next to the old chapel that you saw a moment ago. It's perfectly resourced for anybody on the Common Awards and has everything that they could possibly need for any of those courses. Students on the Oxford courses will also have access to the Oxford University libraries, of course, and it's possible to get readers' cards for Common Awards students for those as well. This is a reasonably typical single student room for the accommodation of single full-time students, but also these rooms are used for weekend and residential accommodation for students on the part-time pathway as well. It's, like many of them, has recently been modernised, and each of these rooms at least has ensuite facilities as well. The common room just inside the front door is the gathering place for all of our pathways. Full-time pathway students resident here in Cuddesdon, our part-time pathway students who come frequently, our Cuddesdon School for Theology and Ministry, not for ordination students, our students on the Portsmouth and Gloucester and Hereford pathways when they come here for residentials too. So this is the sort of hub of the social life of Cuddesdon as a whole. As you see, it's a place for gathering and for comfort, and also for the better things of life as well, as evidenced by the bar here behind me. It's important that we have one common room. This isn't a place with a senior common room and a junior common room. We're one community together, both in our socialising and in our worshipping and in our learning. So our tour ends, as is proper, at the chapel, worship being at the very heart of our life, again on all our pathways, whether full-time residential or part-time or context-based. Worship is the metronome of our life. All our gatherings, all our days are punctuated by it.
I hope that you've enjoyed this chance to see a little bit of what Cuddesdon actually looks like. There'll be an opportunity to have some more information and to ask some questions in the Zoom sessions that we've got scheduled, both with staff and with students. If you'd like to find out more, I'd be really happy to hear from you. Part of my role here is to help people work out what pathway and what academic programme is going to be the best fit for them. So please do get in touch.